Number 8. The 1968 Chevrolet Biscayne L72. The 68 Biscayne L72 is the definition of hiding in plain sight. At first glance, it was nothing special. The Biscayne was Chevrolet's lowest trim full-size sedan. It was designed for fleets, budget-conscious families, and buyers who wanted transportation, not attention. No flashy trim, no performance badges, no racing stripes. Nothing about it suggested speed, but buried deep in the option sheet was something almost unbelievable. In 1968, you could order a Biscayne with the L72 427 cubic inch V8, the same high-performance engine found in top-tier Corvettes. From the factory, it was rated at 425 horsepower, and like most GM ratings of the era, that number was conservative. Corporate policy often forced lower advertised figures, even when the engine was capable of far more. Here's where things got interesting. The Biscayne rode on a lighter platform than its more luxurious siblings like the Impala or Caprice. That weight advantage made it incredibly attractive to drag racers. They didn't care about chrome trim or interior luxury. They cared about power to weight ratio, and this car delivered. To the average buyer, it looked like a rental spec family sedan, but to someone who knew what that engine code meant, it was a full-size missile disguised as a grocery getter. Chevrolet never clearly separated production numbers for Biscayne L72 cars. Documentation is incomplete. Historians agree the total built was extremely small, but no exact number has ever been confirmed. That mystery only adds to its appeal. Today, when an authentic example surfaces, prices typically range between $150,000 and $300,000, depending on condition and originality. The Biscayne L72 wasn't a muscle car in appearance, it was muscle by omission. Number 7. The 1970 Buick GS Stage 1 convertible. By 1970 Buick GS Stage 1 convertible represented the peak of Buick's quiet performance philosophy. Buick never needed to shout. It built torque monsters that spoke for themselves. The GS Stage 1 package featured a 455 cubic inch V8 rated at 360 horsepower and an incredible 510 pound-feet of torque. At the time, that torque figure was the highest of any American production car, and unlike many high-revving muscle engines of the era, this one was tuned for massive low-end force. It delivered effortless acceleration without needing to scream at high RPM. It was strong, durable, and brutally effective in real-world driving. But then Buick complicated the formula. They offered it as a convertible. Convertibles added weight, they reduced structural rigidity, and insurance companies absolutely hated them. High-performance drop tops were seen as risky, and premiums reflected that. The result? Only 49 GS Stage 1 convertibles were built in 1970. Performance remained just as savage as the hardtop version. Acceleration was immediate. Wheel spin came easily. Torque overwhelmed tires without hesitation, yet history focused on the more visually aggressive GSX hardtops, leaving the convertible version almost forgotten. Today, these ultra-rare Buicks typically trade between $200,000 and $350,000 depending on originality and documentation. Buick never repeated this formula again. It didn't have to. Number 6. The 1969 Pontiac Firebird Ram Air 5. The 1969 Pontiac Firebird Ram Air 5 was never meant to be just another street machine. The Ram Air 5 program was an engineering experiment driven by racing ambition. Pontiac wasn't thinking about showroom comfort, it was thinking about airflow, RPM, and dominance. The Ram Air 5 used a 400 cubic inch block paired with highly specialized cylinder heads featuring straight intake ports, a radical design aimed at maximizing airflow at high engine speeds. This wasn't about torque for cruising, it was about top-end breathing capacity. Horsepower was never officially published for street versions. Pontiac avoided making bold public claims, partly because the program never fully transitioned into mainstream production. Some engines were installed at the factory before delivery, others were shipped separately and installed at the dealer level. Many never even saw public roads. They went straight into race cars. Compared to the more commonly discussed Trans Am variants, Ram Air 5 Firebirds are far rarer. Exact production numbers were never finalized, but most historians believe fewer than 50 complete cars were built. The project ended quietly when GM tightened corporate restrictions on racing involvement. Internal pressure essentially pulled the plug before the engine could reach its full street potential. When one of these Firebirds surfaces today, values commonly exceed $500,000. This wasn't a failed program. It was a program that pushed too far, too fast, and scared corporate management in the process. Number 5, the 1970 Oldsmobile Rally 350W31. While other brands chase cubic inches, 1970 Oldsmobile Rally 350W31 took a different path. Oldsmobile believed performance wasn't just about displacement, it was about engineering balance. The W31 package centered around a specially prepared 350 cubic inch V8 rated at 325 horsepower. Instead of relying on sheer size, it used careful camshaft tuning and functional forced air induction to create an engine that loved to rev. Throttle response was sharp, power delivery felt precise. It rewarded drivers who understood how to use it. The Rally 350 package added bold paint options and minimal trim, but performance was always the core mission. Unfortunately, buyers were obsessed with big blocks. Bigger numbers sold better. The W31 required appreciation, and that limited its audience. Production numbers remained relatively low, believed to be under 3,000 units for 1970. Today, values typically range from $80,000 to $140,000, depending on condition and documentation. The Rally 350W31 didn't fail. It simply never received the recognition it deserved. Number 4, the 1969 Chevrolet Chevelle COPO 427. The 69 Chevelle COPO 427 wasn't supposed to exist, at least not in the way performance buyers wanted it. Inside General Motors, there were strict internal rules. One of them limited engine sizes in certain models. Officially, you couldn't just walk into a dealership and order a Chevelle with Chevrolet's wildest big block unless it was approved through very specific channels. That's where COPO came in, the Central Office Production Order System. It was originally designed for fleet purchases and special commercial requests, but performance-minded dealers figured out how to use it for something far more interesting. Through COPO, a small number of Chevelles were ordered in 1969 with the L72 427 cubic inch V8, factory rated at 425 horsepower, and once again that rating was conservative. These cars weren't built for luxury, they were built with drag strips in mind, minimal equipment, limited options, maximum output. Many came with 4-speed manual transmissions, although a handful of automatics slipped through. Chevrolet never kept perfectly organized records for COPO Chevelles, which makes exact production totals difficult to pin down. Most credible estimates suggest somewhere between 20 and 30 were built. Think about that. In an era where tens of thousands of muscle cars rolled off assembly lines, this was a microscopic number. When documented examples appear today, values generally fall between $250,000 and $400,000, depending on configuration, condition, and paperwork. The COPO Chevelle wasn't rare because it was marketed as exclusive. It was rare because almost nobody knew how to order it. Number 3. The 1971 Pontiac GT-37 455 HO. By 1971, the muscle car landscape was changing fast. Emissions regulations were tightening, insurance rates were climbing, and high-compression big blocks were slowly disappearing. That's what makes the 1971 Pontiac GT-37 455 HO so fascinating. The GT-37 was designed as a stripped-down performance model, an affordable way to keep horsepower alive. Most GT-37s were equipped with modest engines meant to balance performance and cost, but a very small number received something far more serious. The 455 HO rated at 335 horsepower. The 455 HO used round port cylinder heads derived from Pontiac's racing programs. The official rating reflected the reality of emissions tuning and new testing standards, not the engine's true capability. In the real world, these cars were far stronger than the number suggested. Production totals were never formally broken out, but most historians agree that fewer than 100 GT-37 were built with the 455 HO engine. 4-speed manual examples are even more scarce. This wasn't a car covered in bold graphics or heavy marketing. It was Pontiac quietly preserving performance while the industry was beginning to retreat. Today, depending on configuration and documentation, market values typically range between $250,000 and $450,000. It was a final stand, delivered without fanfare. Number 2. The 1969 Chevrolet COPO Nova 427. If there's one car on this list that feels almost rebellious, it's the 1969 Chevrolet COPO Nova 427. Chevrolet had a clear rule: engines larger than 400 cubic inches were not allowed in compact cars. But rules, as history has shown, can sometimes be bent. Through the same COPO ordering system used for special fleet vehicles, select dealers found a way to install the massive 427 cubic inch V8 into the lightweight Nova platform. The result was terrifying: a compact body, minimal weight, and big block power that completely overwhelmed the chassis. Most COPO Novas were ordered with drag racing in mind. Interiors were basic, creature comforts were irrelevant, performance was everything. Exact production numbers remain debated among historians, but estimates suggest fewer than 100 COPO 427 Novas were built in 1969, and many of them never survived. They were raced hard, modified, crashed, or simply worn out. These were tools for competition, not collectibles. That makes surviving examples extraordinarily rare. Public sales are infrequent. When one does surface with proper documentation, values typically range between $250,000 and $500,000. The COPO Nova wasn't a marketing triumph, it was a loophole weaponized. Number 1. The 1970 Chevrolet Corvette ZR2. Most enthusiasts have heard of the ZR1, far fewer know about the car that may have been even more extreme in its time. The 1970 Chevrolet Corvette ZR2 wasn't built for comfort, it wasn't built for style, it was built to meet drag racing homologation requirements. At its heart was the LS 6454 cubic inch V8, factory rated at 450 horsepower. In reality, that engine was one of the most formidable big blocks Chevrolet ever installed in a production car, but the ZR2 package went beyond just the engine. engine. It included heavy-duty suspension components, upgraded brakes, reinforced drivetrain parts, and competition-focused hardware designed to survive hard launches and repeated abuse. Luxury options were irrelevant, convenience features were minimal, durability and raw capability were the priority, and buyers didn't quite understand what they were looking at. Only 12 ZR2 Corvettes were built in 1970. 12. Dealers struggled to sell them because they were expensive, uncompromising, and purpose-built. They weren't comfortable cruisers. They weren't boulevard showpieces. They were race-ready machines disguised as production cars. Today, surviving examples are among the most valuable Corvettes of the era. Public sales are extremely rare, and when one changes hands, prices can exceed $1 million depending on provenance and originality. The ZR2 wasn't forgotten because it lacked performance. It was forgotten because it was too focused, too extreme, and too far ahead of what most buyers wanted at the time. Out of all these forgotten GM monsters, which one truly deserves the title of the most brutal factory muscle car? The lightweight COPO Nova, the torque-heavy Buick GS Stage 1 convertible, or the ultra-rare Corvette ZR2? And if you had to pick just one to own, which are you choosing and why? If you love rare, backdoor-built muscle cars like these, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we're just getting started.